And we're following breaking news out of the NFL where Arizona Cardinals wide receiver Deandre Hopkins will be suspended for the first 6 games of the season for violating the league's PED policy. That is according to ESPN. The Cards traded for Marquise Hollywood Brown from the Ravens last week during the draft. Hopkins, a 5-time Pro Bowler, 3-time All-Pro. So let's welcome in 3 of our experts. We have Ryan Wilson, Pete Prisco, Brady Quinn here with me on set. Pete, we'll start with you here. Just your reaction. Deandre Hopkins out for the first 6 games of the season.
And we thought they went to go get Hollywood Brown to appease Kyler Murray because he's his buddy. I mean, they needed him in the worst way. They had to know this was coming. This had been rumored in some circles for a little bit. And the reality is this is the number 1 wide receiver on the team that needs to throw the ball and throw it better. This is a damning blow for the Arizona Cardinals. But when you look at it from this standpoint, you can also play this, look at it this way. He didn't play much last year either. I mean, he down the stretch he was out, and it really affected their offense. But when you look at their receiving group, isn't that impressive without DeAndre Hopkins?
That's right, and we'll see what happens in terms of A.J. Green, what his plans are. Rondale Moore, they drafted last year. Small wide receiver. Andy Isabella, who's basically the same version of Rondale Moore, hasn't worked out yet. He's a small wide receiver. They do have Zach Ertz. They re-up. They have Max Williams, and of course they drafted Trey McBride over the weekend. Those guys are all tight ends, so they're going to have quite the impact that Dre Hopkins provides. And just when you thought the drama had died down around the Cardinals as it pertained to Kyler Murray, now there's this to deal with. And, not great if you're Arizona playing in one of the toughest divisions in football, but they're going to have to find a way to make it work without Dre Hopkins.
If you go back to last season, when DeAndre Hopkins went down, their offense really hit into a tailspin. I mean, they need his services, or they need someone to step up as a legitimate number 1 wide receiver. And maybe you could make the case that A.J. Green played a role in all of that, but nothing close to DeAndre Hopkins. So this is a big-time loss and a big-time blow. The upside or the optimistic side of me is saying, well, at least you know now. I mean, you've got the entire offseason now to prepare for it. You made a move for Hollywood Brown. You got A.J. Green coming back. Andy Isabella will probably be moved or moved on from. At least there's rumors that that's going to take place. And then you've got Rondale Moore as well as Zach Ertz. So you've got plenty of options to throw to, and you can get through these first 6 games. And in fact, maybe this ends up being a positive somehow where they make it through the first 6 games, and then you've got the other 11 to work with in a 17-game season where you can start to make that push, make that run as Hopkins comes back, starts to work back into that offense. But tough blow for an offense that clearly needs him in the passing game. But again, a ton of time to prepare for life without him.
A little positive spin on it from you. But as Pete said, look, it's such a tough division there. So how do they try to start compensating it? We saw Marquise Brown come in. But what can we realistically expect from them in those 6 games without him?
Yeah, I mean, you're going to see the ball spread around a little bit more. Hollywood Brown, I don't know that he was ever going to be a number 1 wide receiver, in part because of the inconsistency of his hands, and he's not truly that number 1 wide receiver size. A.J. Green more fits that mold, but he's in the latter portion of his career, so it's probably going to be by committee. It's going to be a combination of A.J. Green when you get him isolated, Hollywood Brown downfield big plays, same thing with Rondale Moore and the way you draw things up for him. Zach Ertz is going to play a role in that, the running backs too. And then Kyler Murray utilizing his legs and taking off and making something happen. On pass plays, sometimes that's honestly not the worst thing that can happen. So it'll be a combination of things.
Hey, Kyler Murray, you want the big contract? Go play well without him. How about that? I mean, there's an opportunity. If Kyler Murray can go out there and play well without him and throw the football around consistently without DeAndre Hopkins, then it gives it more credence to go give him the long-term contract. We've seen quarterbacks have guys go down and still continue to play well. Well, this is Kyler Murray time. I mean, if he clearly wants the Arizona Cardinals to give him a mega deal, go play well without DeAndre Hopkins.
Here's some more good news, by the way, as I sit here thinking about this. Remember last year when the Cardinals were in that tailspin? When is Cliff Kingsbury at his best? The first half of the season. So you could roll out just about anybody, and they are going to win those football games. So maybe that is when you want to lose DeAndre Hopkins, as you sort of noted, Brady. And then maybe they can get themselves right and win some football games in December, which they've certainly struggled with. Again, I think the running backs will be more involved. We know James Conner can be an asset in the pass game. And to Pete's point, I think it'll give Kyler Murray his chance to prove that he deserves to be paid like one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. He's been good at times, and he's struggled at times, as has the rest of that offense, Cliff Kingsbury. And now they'll have another chance to prove it for 6 football games without their best player.
We know how tough the division is. I mean, the last thing is we don't know what that schedule looks like exactly yet. We obviously know they have to play everyone in the NFC West, just not when. So if it's backloaded, which we've seen the NFL do in previous years as far as divisional play as it gets closer to the playoffs, maybe that plays to the benefit too, where they're not going to miss some of those divisional games and worrying about having to beat the defending Super Bowl champs, the LA Rams, for the division early in the season. Maybe those games are in the second half of the year.
Surprising move for the Cardinals that we are finding out. DeAndre Hopkins suspended for the first 6 games, violating the PED policy. All right, guys, hang on just a second. We're going to talk about fantasy here. I do want to let you know, Pick Six Podcast, your home for everything in the NFL. Latest episode, they're breaking down the draft, but you can guarantee the next one will be including this reaction to DeAndre Hopkins out of the first 6 games of the season. Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.